Hey guys, it's Miss Benson. This video we're going to go over the solutions to the Market of Loanable Funds worksheet that I left for you. Now there are 4 examples on here, and with each one of these examples there's either going to be a shift in the demand for loanable funds or the supply of loanable funds, and we're going to figure out what impact that has on the real interest rate. So number 1 says that the government increases its spending without any increase in taxes. So ceteris paribus, they haven't changed taxes, they haven't changed their income, all they've changed is that they're spending more money. Well, if the government is spending more money but they're not bringing more money in, that means they're going to probably be in a situation of deficit spending. So when the government needs some money to help cover its extra spending, then it's going to need to borrow some of these funds from the loanable funds market. So since the government needs to borrow some of these loanable funds, we're going to show that on the graph by an increase in the demand curve of the loanable funds. Now notice that when we shift the demand curve to the right, that's going to lead to an increase in the real interest rate along the y-axis. Now in our notes, we called this situation crowding out. Anytime the government borrows money and it raises interest rates for everybody else that wants to get a loan, like businesses that want to engage in investment spending for physical capital, or households that want to engage in that interest-sensitive consumer spending, any of these groups that are wanting to go to the bank to get a loan at a more reasonable interest rate, well, they're going to find that when they go back to get that loan, they're going to face a higher interest rate, and it's going to be more expensive to get that loan and to pay it back. All right, question number 2. It says the government raises the taxes on income from interest payments. This means that if you had your money in a savings account and you were earning some interest off of it, the amount of taxes that you would have to pay on that interest income that you were earning is now going to be higher. So the more money that you're bringing in from interest income, the more taxes you're going to have to pay. Well, this is a deterrent for saving. So that is going to decrease the supply of loanable funds, and that's going to shift the supply of loanable funds curve to the left. And the result of that would be that now real interest rates are higher. All right, for number 3, it says that Federal Reserve buys bonds on the open market, and that's going to lead to an increase in the money supply. Of course, buying bonds makes the money supply bigger. Well, let's think about the linkage or the series or sequence of events that happens whenever the government increases the money supply. Whenever the money supply curve shifts to the right, that's going to lead to a lower nominal interest rate. A lower nominal interest rate means that investment spending is going to increase along with interest-sensitive consumer spending. So I and C could both increase. And since those are components of aggregate demand, that's going to lead aggregate demand to increase. Now, think about it. When aggregate demand shifts to the right, that leads to an increase in the overall price level of things in the economy, but it also leads to an increase in real GDP and a decrease in unemployment. Well, with an increase in real GDP and a decrease in unemployment, that means that generally most people are bringing in higher levels of income than they were before. Well, since people are bringing in more income and income levels are generally higher, that means that what are people doing with that extra income? They're going to be spending some of it, they're going to be saving some of it. And so the supply of loanable funds, or the amount of money that people have in their savings account, is going to naturally increase because when there's an increase in income, people are spending more and they're also saving more. So this is going to shift our supply of loanable funds curve to the right. When our supply of loanable funds shifts to the right, that is going to lead to a decrease in the real interest rate. Finally, number 4, a country opens its doors to international trade and financial inflow occurs. So in other words, we have now money coming in our country from other countries. Well, people might not only be buying our goods and services, but maybe they're also putting some of their money in our banks, especially if they think that our country is going to be a stable place for them to store and save their money in an account. Well, when this extra foreign money comes into our country, that's going to lead to an increase in the amount of money sitting in savings accounts. So that's going to lead to an increase in the supply of loanable funds. Just like we did in number 3, we're going to shift that supply curve to the right, and that's going to lead to a lower real interest rate. All right, guys, we're going to do some practice free response questions, and I'm going to also give you some practice multiple choice questions about the loanable funds market. But until then, see ya.